Greetings from Area 51 Raceway, and right here we have the NSR P68 Slot Car. I picked this up from LEB Hobbies. They have the red and white one in the Martini livery available. And what I'm going to do is some modifications on this car. I usually tune these cars for my track. If you have a different track, you always want to tune to the conditions of your track. So my track is different from everybody else's, but this is what works on my track. Doesn't mean it'll work for yours, so you need to experiment, and that's why there's a lot of these little added extra parts that you could add to the car. So I'm going to remove the body, and what we have here is the Sidewinder motor. As you can see, the configuration, and then we have the round, what's called the round cup suspension motor pod. So these are different than the rectangle ones. As you can see, these are round and the rectangle ones are different, like in the other Mossler I did, and the McLaren that I just finished doing also. So here's the deal with this. This is a brand new car. I took it out of the package. This axle is way too high because it hits the body. So what we're going to do is adjust the axle, obviously, and everything, and then they give you 4 grub screws for this to take care of it. Another modification we're going to make is the guide, and we're also going to do the set screw that holds the wires, the lead wires, and the braid into the guide. This is a nice addition to that, because what happens is these eyelets are okay, but after a while they do come loose and they will eventually pull out. It's rare, but it does happen, and I like to have the wires secured very firmly against my guide. This is the original parts on the car. We have the one that has it's like a pink dot, which will go to the right side, which will be negative, and then the left side will go to the opposite side that doesn't have the pink dot on the motor can on the end here. On the end bell they mark it. So we're going to take these wires off, remove the magnet because we don't need the magnet, and we'll go ahead and install our wire leads to the guide with a set screw. But I want to take this all apart so everybody kind of gets a general idea of what's going on. I prefer, which I am going to prefer right now, is to remove the front axle, which there are grub screws right here, and you will use a 1.3 tool here for the grub screw for the front wheel. This is a 1.3. It's a wearer tool. And I'm going to just remove the axle, the front axle, because I'm going to move them off to the side just to make it easier. Then what I'm going to do is remove these wires. So we're going to remove the lead wires on the motor. There's one. There's 2. So we're done there. Shut off our iron because we don't need it. Then what we're going to do is remove that guide. And all you're going to do is really just pinch this and pull it off. It just pops through. You can even use your fingernails or whatever is easier, and it pops out just like that. That gets discarded. We don't use it. Another thing we're going to do also is use tinned wire braid from Slotted. Slotted has it, and also Slot Car Corner has it. Slot Car Corner carries Slotted, so this would be basically what you'd be getting. Either one will work, the Slot Car Corner brand or the Slotted one. What we have here is, the leads off and everything. And then the part we're going to do also is discard this magnet, because we really are not going to need this magnet. Just remove the magnet. Put it off that way. Now what I'm going to do is set the car off to the side, and then I'm going to get... So here we are putting our set screw type, wire holder from the article from Home Racing World. You can see I got my braid in there, and I basically got a toothpick to kind of make room right there, like so. And then I'm going to get the wire. Let me get my grub screw ready. So I have my grub screw ready, and you can see that's flat. I flattened that line wire, soldered it and flattened it, and I'm going to put it inside the bulkhead of the guide, like, let's see here, just like that, and tuck it in there as far as I can. I'm going to get the grub screw, or this, And put it like that, and then I'm going to thread it in just like that. And there it is. It's in. So now I have this. This is really difficult to remove. I'm tugging at this good, which, you know, you won't have a problem with this coming off. They're really secured on there. So that's what I do with these. I started doing with these NSR cars. And again, you want to use the AWG22 wire from Slot Car Corner. This is silicone, and it really flexes nicely. And once you get it in there, you're never going to have a problem with this coming out. And what I'll do is I'll take this off, because I used to take. So we are back here with after putting our lead wires in. And if you notice, when you put this guide on, one thing keep in mind, it feels like it's in there all the way, but it's not, and it feels good. But you have to push it up more, and you can see there's a little bit of protrusion right up there. And what we want to do is trim that down so it's flush. So this way it'll tighten up, because if you leave it like that, it's never going to tighten up, and then the thing will be moving up and down, and you want to eliminate some of this right here. So what I'll do is usually get a blade and chop it down, or you can get a, you know, Dremel if you want, and take the guide off and, you know, sand it down a little. But you want this to be flush with this part. And then also, if you see, this is really tight to move around like so. It's kind of tight. So what I usually will do is I will file this down a little with a rat tail file, and I'll just kind of like clean it up a little. You're just taking a little off. You're not going crazy and oblonging the hole. You're just trying to get it to where it moves freely and nice, because you want this to move nice and free. Alright, we got our guide in. It's moving nice and easy the way it should. Not, you know, stiff. Nice good movement. And then what next we're going to do is replace these round pieces here with the suspension kit. Now this is soft suspension. I'm not going to go with soft suspension because I haven't had good luck with soft suspension. I probably could, but I think for my track the hard suspension is the best. And again, these little guys go all over the place, so just keep in mind when you take springs out that they will basically just fling all over the place, like one just did now, and I don't know where the hell it went. That's usually typically what happens. Here it is. And they're hard to see, that's why I have this here. This is hard suspension because the springs are a lot longer. I don't know if you can see this. Here's the soft one, how short they are. You can see, let's put it right here. So you can see how short this is. Now I'll show you long hard suspension, which is a very longer spring, and you can see the difference between the two. How long this one is, how short that one is. So we're going to use the long ones. So what I will do is take the motor pod completely off, and these come off really easy. Alright, we have our suspension pod in. We got it snug. That should be good. I went all the way down and then came out maybe, I'd say half a turn, maybe one turn, not sure. But you'll adjust it as you get on your track and roll it around and see how well it handles. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put our front axle in, and we have the grub screws that come with the car that are right here in the little package that they usually give you with the car. And I take these out, and I thought I could get rid of that, and thought there was 4 in there, but there's not. So I'll go to my own personal stash that I have here of grub screws, and those are touching, but this one looks like it's a little high from when I'm looking at it from the front. So let me lower this down a little and put this down a little. Still a resistance here. Let me get this up a little bit more. It's a little bit better. Well, we'll put a little oil and it should be easier to spin. And that looks pretty good right there. So there we go. That's basically just setting up your front axle. And then what you'll do is you'll solder your wire leads and you know, make your spot where it's gonna, you want to go underneath the axle. So this will return like that. So we'll come back and do that, and we'll see what it looks like afterwards. So here we are, the car is completed. We have soldered the wires where they need to go. And you could see I reversed this. Usually I put yellow on left and black on right, but I did it because I just did it that way. It's no big deal. I know it's where it goes, because this little pink dot here goes to the right side, which would be negative, and then the positive would go to here, because this is the way the rotation of this motor goes. Now I adjusted my front axle, and I put my, you know, the grub screw method. And then I also put a little bit dab of UV glue to hold the wires here and tucked them in nicely so these are down so they don't interfere with the front part of the body, which, since the body is real low, you want to make sure you get the wires down as best you can, and that should be fine. And I've lubed the axle, the front, you know, axle itself, the rear oil lights and the rear axle, and then I lubed the end bells. They lubed the end bells on the motor, and then I put some PTFE on the gear and spur and pinion gear to give it a little loop. So I'm going to move it over here to my little bench tester. It goes the right direction. I hope it does. If it doesn't, it'll go backwards. It looks like we're good, so it's going forward. So, and just give it a little run of the car. And we're at 5 volts. What we'll do is I'll just turn it up a little bit. 6 volts, let it run a little. Now I have my body here, and I'm going to use the original body screws since I'm still waiting until some body screws are in stock, which are the better ones that they have, but there's none in stock at the moment. When they come in stock, I'll replace all my other cars with the correct screws. And now that's all done there, and that's it. We'll head over to the track and see how it looks like and how it handles and how we adjust it. See you there. So here we are at the track, and this took a little bit of doing, not as bad as the McLaren took more. One thing I noticed is these tires that come on this car, they're super soft, and they do come off the rim, and then you get, you know, it's just like you have a flat tire. But once you wear them in, because they have like a tread pattern when you get them, but once you start wearing them into the track, it becomes less of an issue. On this car right here, I had to loosen the rear up and tighten the front more on the motor pod. So this is what I mean where you start tuning this thing, and you could tell when I go around my track, if there's a lot of like shuddering and juddering, that means the thing is too tight. And that's what you get with you know, a lot of vibrations on the chassis. It's just that the springs are just too compressed together that they do this, and they just oscillate too much, and then the car starts, you know, doing the jitterbug. So what I've done is just I go and loosen it each at a time to get it better and better, and you can tell when it goes around a track if it's going smooth around the corners. It may grab a little, but not as bad, not super bad chattering as before. And then on the body screws, I had to tighten the back up almost to the point where it's almost screwed in all the way, and then loosen the front. So this is what I mean about every car is different when you tune them. So as far as the front wheels go, they're the best you're going to get, because on the other side, that's why they only give you 2 grub screws, just to point that out, is that you can only go so far down. They do barely touch, but they don't touch constantly. But as they go into the corner, that's what they're designed for, to be like an outrigger to catch, and it does do that. So I'm going to put the car on, and we're going to run it around so you can see how it looks. We're at 10 volts, and here we go. Not unless it de-slots on me as I'm saying how well tuned it is. There we go. You can hear how smooth it sounds when it goes around the corners, and that's what you want. If you start getting chattering or juddering, that means it's too tight. That means the motor pod suspension is too tight, and you have to back it out. So you have to experiment each time when you get these cars. This is a Sidewinder car, so they're all going to be different in how they behave. Sidewinder, inline, angle winder. It's all different behavior with the slot car, so you have to adjust it to, you know, each of its design or configuration of how the motor sits in there. So far, this Sidewinder seems pretty cool. It's, you know, it's coming around real nice. You can see it's not doing the jitterbug, which it did before with jitter, and then that's when the car de-slots and jumps off. And a little bit too much there. And again, like I said, you just gotta see, this is the thing about those soft tires, and that's starting to, so what happens is, just as you can see, it came off the rim, and that's what's going on. And so I'll just pop it back on. So I'll need to probably glue these on, or I don't know, maybe I'll get Paul Gauge tires. I'm kind of debating. The other cars don't give me that problem. For some reason, this P68, these tires are a little bit more softer, that they tend to pop off the rim a little bit if you go too hard into the corners, or they jitter too much. But for all in all, it's running pretty good. It could be because it's a sidewinder that it tends to pull the tire off more, because you have the sidewinder right sideways into the spur gear, and I believe that's the side that it's on. So that's where it's producing the torque. I think that's that one, but I have to look. So you got it handling pretty good for 10 volts there. It really holds onto the track fine. I mean, don't see a problem with it. And again, when you break those tires in, those rubber tires, I see a little jitter there, they'll eventually, all that little tread pattern on the tire, when you get these cars, they have little grooves like it's an actual tire. Those will wear out, because as you drive in this car on a plastic track, it'll eventually just wear those down, and it'll get better as you drive it. And pretty cool. I think I may try a set of urethanes on this one. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go back and forth. I do probably want to try those foams around, because this has the air system, because I know Harry has put some foams on his NSR cars with its wood track, and I'd like to experiment with that just to see how that would turn out, if that'll be better for this. Because some people like that air system, some people don't. Harry told me he'd disown me if he caught me with a syringe injecting a tire, so I won't do that, Harry. I promise. But so far so good. Only deslotted once, and I'm giving it all she got around the corner. I mean, laying hard on the throttle. Too hard there. So, but yep, see, there you go. The tire came off again and does the jitters. And yep, it's the side where, obviously, where the torque is being applied, so you'll get a lot of that. So I'll probably have to specifically glue this tire on to keep that from happening. It's a little bit of an annoyance, but not bad. It happens, once in a while. If it crashes like that, it may remove, pull the tire off, and it does, as you can see right there. And you just push it back on. So that's the only difference, I guess, on the Sidewinder. You run into that. I haven't seen the other cars do that, so, but that's just this model right here, this P68. But hell, I like it. I'll get myself another one. I really like the cars. It's a little bit of work here and there, like I did earlier, and got yourself a nice running slot car, non-magnet. I could turn up the voltage if I want, but I think it'd be too much. I may experiment with that later. Well, that's the tuning part there for that P68. Hope you enjoyed this segment. Again, thanks for watching, and as always, have fun racing.